Hello, everybody, and welcome to You Inside You, the podcast where you discover how to know, recognize, and trust the voice of your true self. And today we're going to be talking about divorce because as women, we, let me see how I can put it. Divorce is a real stir up moment in life. And I'm going to be bringing on Kedisha in a moment. We're talking about how one's world gets turned upside down. I personally never thought that I was going to get divorced. I um I really didn't think that I was going to end up being divorced. You know how many people that know people that have gone through divorce or maybe going through a divorce right now would ever have thought about that. I mean, that's not what we sign up for when we get married, right? So if divorce affects everything at all moments, in all times, every area of your life, it turns everything upside down. You don't even know what's up and down. You don't even know how to wake up in the morning and how to be. So join our discussion today with Kedisha. I'm going to bring her on. Kedisha, are you here? Let me see.
I am.
Yay! There you are! Welcome. Good morning.
Good afternoon. I'm in the UK.
Good
Good
afternoon on the other
morning.
side of the world in Europe.
Yes,
Ah, I'm so happy to be here with you because we had such a great talk last week.
yes,
And
we did.
we just connect, and I love connecting on lots of levels, right? Because
Yeah.
when we grow up and we are driven, ambitious, competitive, professional people that just wants to launch a career, make the best out of our lives, it's fun to talk about that. It's fun to talk about strategies and steps and ways to make it faster and quicker and with amazing people that just create momentum. I love conversations about that. And then there's the other side, right? Then there is how is my personal life going? How is my family doing? How am I as a mother? How am I as a partner? Do I do if I am all of a sudden standing in the middle of a divorce, which I never thought I was going to be doing?
Hmm.
And it seems like my world is kind of coming to an end. And how can I be the best I can be during all of that with business, with responsibilities, with being a parent, with dreams shattered? Where am I going to live? I mean, Kadisha and I really didn't have anything specifically planned for today's live. It's really just more illuminating this this talk that's not really talked about. What we do in my group of conscious relationships is we talk about things that we normally don't talk about with everybody else.
That is
And I
so
wanted to
true.
bring that in today. Do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and your background and kind of how you serve people? And then we're kind of shift into more of the talk on divorce.
Yes. Thank you very much for having me, Trini. My name is Kedisha Tate. I live in the UK. I am a coach, speaker, and property investor. How did I get here? It wasn't always like that for me. I've always been an entrepreneur, but it has its ups and downs. So my first experience as an entrepreneur, I I had a retail store. So that in UK, that means brick and mortar. And I distributed and sold baby goods for from 0 to 4 years old. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And so when it came to the point where I lost the business in terms of the recession came, things happened, and it meant I had to close. That was really hard for me. And I felt at the time, I didn't know that the business failing didn't mean I failed. So I took it on as I failed.
Hmm.
However, during that process, I now understand I had some unconscious knowledge of things that I was doing unconsciously to get myself out of the situation. So I did go through a deep stage of feeling like a failure, like I've let everybody down. What am I going to do? I've lost everything. During that time, I almost lost my property. I went bankrupt. And eventually, I also got a divorce, which I'll come on to later. But something inside me wouldn't rest. And so I decided that I was going to get out. I was going to open the curtains because I had all the curtains in my house locked. I wouldn't go out unless I was taking my daughter out for school. I felt so ashamed. It was like a fall from grace. But one day something said to me, open the curtains and let the light in. And perhaps you will see a different perspective. And literally that's what happened. I opened the curtains, and the light coming, it was like a metaphor that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And that day, I didn't just get dressed and drop my daughter off to school. I got dressed, took her to school, and then I went job hunting. First time in a long time. It was embarrassing because here's an entrepreneur who was making money and doing stuff, right? That's how I felt. That's how I was judging myself. And I took it from there. I did every and any job, cleaning, whatever I needed to do to put money in the bank to pay the bills and look after my daughter. That's what I was going to do. And eventually, I built myself up, went back to university, started my new life of entrepreneurship in consultancy. And from that, I've managed to use the money that I built in consultancy to invest in property because my big dream was to create wealth for myself and my family. Wealth that isn't shakable, like, something happens and it's all gone. And so that's how I'm here. I am
Amazing.
constantly in my coaching. I did this coaching myself. I help women to recognize that they're more than their stories, they are more than the history, their experiences. These things happen, but they're not the thing. Like I said, my business failed. I didn't fail. So it didn't mean I couldn't start another business. I also learned that fear and failure are prerequisites of success. I understood that fear is not telling me I can't. So just because I went through a divorce, just because I lost a business, it wasn't saying I couldn't do anything more. It just meant that whatever I did next, I had no experience in it and it's going to be a learning curve, right? And I'm going to be afraid. But I needed to trust myself and know that I have everything in me to do what I needed to do, and that I am greater than any circumstances, any condition, any experience that may be surrounding me. And I went through that training with my coach, and now I teach that to women to help them to elevate, to lift themselves up, and to know that you can recover from whatever it is you're going through. So that's how I got here.
Oh, wow. I'm just like blown away. And you guys watching this and listening to this, Kedisha is just one inspiration, powerful woman, such a great speaker, an inspiration on so many levels. And this is why I brought you in here today. I get goosebumps just listening to your story because I really, really love how you emphasize that whatever happens in life doesn't define us, right? We go through childhood trauma. We go through moving to different countries, right? Learning new cultures, getting divorced, failing at business and failing again and raising kids on our own. And there's so many, I would say, excuses or victim modes that we can get into. Why me? And I can't believe this happened to me, or I don't deserve this. And Sure, that's true to a certain extent, to a certain extent. It's not, but it's not about the serving, right? It's about how we view it, it's how we look at it. And I love how you brought in the shame because I think shame is really the thing that feeds a lot of this stuff.
Mm,
What is it that we, why is it that we kind of get on the complaint train? I call it the complaint train, of victim mode and I can't believe, and it's everybody else's fault. And only if he hadn't done this or she hadn't done that or I had done this, right? Self-blame,
mm,
attacking ourself or attacking our worth and value. If we can't get on that complaint train, we're never going to see that light that you're talking about. We have to start separating these experiences from our worth and value and start understanding that feeling shame is okay. We have to welcome it. It's just part of human nature. It's just one of those emotions that we have to feel sometimes. And the more we push it away, the more we're going to get into that victim mode. And there's really no difference between shame of losing a business versus shame of divorce or shame of being unemployed or shame of, you name it.
mhm.
It's the same feeling, but we identify so closely with it. And it's certainly something I can recognize going through divorce is that what are people going to say? What are people going to do? How is my family going to respond? How am I ever going to make it on my own? How there's so many hows and so many what ifs. Tell me about what it was like for you of dealing with the shame and the embarrassment of all of that.
Yeah, it was tough
Mm,
because people, like you said, the main thing is people don't talk about what's really going on in their lives. Like, really, we like to show the good stuff, the
yeah.
good side. That's what we're brought up to show people what's going well, what works. Hey, look at me, a gorgeous family. We're doing this, we're doing great. You never really, not in our everyday lives do people talk about what's really going on, right? And so I didn't feel like, especially if you're somebody in a community that people are looking up to or in your family, right? That everybody thinks you've got it together, and sometimes we ourselves put ourselves in that pedestal, that we get married and it's supposed to work. I think that is, it's supposed to be forever, like,
Oh, sure.
you know, and there is that idea and that sense unconsciously sometimes that's running behind the scene that tells me that, okay, you're supposed to make it work no matter what. And if it doesn't work, and you've failed and you've let down everyone. You've let down your kids because you couldn't keep it together. And in some instances, that keeps people in the relationship, right? And feeling like, okay, how do I explain to all the people? I remember feeling that. How am I going to explain to you what happened? And then I've got to repeat it, and then I've got to repeat it. And it's exhausting just thinking about that. And I think when that happened to me, I reminded myself that no, I'm not going to have to explain to everyone because it's too exhausting.
No.
So I'm choosing to not. It didn't work. And if that's not enough for you, then I really can't. Obviously, I've got closer people to my one and two friends that I would talk about things. And yes, felt like I was telling that story over and over again. But there came a point when I didn't want to tell the story even to them. And it was then I knew that was it for me.
Yeah.
I've crossed this threshold of that shame and the burden and trying to justify everything because I then accepted that I am Kedisha. This happened to me. There were things that I can take responsibility for, but there are some things that there's nothing I can do
Mm,
unless I was going to sacrifice myself. And I wasn't prepared to sacrifice myself in those situations. And therefore, the decision to move on was the right one for me.
yeah.
And I'm going to leave it at that. So it was
Mm,
a journey, the shame. and being able to stand up and face it and not let people make you feel shameful for it. So there's
Yeah.
one thing, you first not feeling ashamed about it, and you first recognizing that if you have to make this decision, you were in your right to do so because there's a reason, something inside you knew it wasn't right for you, regardless of what the world saw, right? Because who's going to run away from something good that's really good for them, right? Because our internal intuition that we're built with tells us stuff. And
Mm,
then there's the
mm,
external action that confirms it, right?
mm,
And so we are so taught to ignore that internal signal.
mm.
Because maybe they didn't mean that. Maybe, and you keep doing that over time, you can't trust yourself, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so once I got to the point where I said, no, it was for me because my internal will not allow me, will not rest
yeah.
because it's not for me. And I'm okay with that. And I'm not
Mm,
ashamed of it. But if anybody else wants to make me feel like that, tough.
mm,
Right? So I had
mm.
to get to that point, but it was a journey.
Yeah.
And in that journey, I learned that I have to face everything. I have to look at fear. I have to look at anything that scares me and face it and
Yes.
walk past it and not, there was once I got dressed to leave the house and I got halfway down and I ran back home and locked myself in. Like now looking at them, like, what was that? But I was so scared of
Yeah.
people seeing me,
Yeah.
and we will all react differently. Different things will trigger us.
Yes.
And I had to face it, and it was small steps. It's not
Yes.
thinking you're going to get up tomorrow and it's going to be fine. It's small steps, and you
Yes.
give yourself grace and you love on yourself and remind yourself who you are, that
Mm,
you are connected to this divine infinity presence that
mm,
loves you and he wants love for you,
mm.
right? And if the universe wants you to have love and be loved, he will not want you to be in any situation that doesn't give that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was that journey that made me, I had to face me.
Mm.
Because sometimes as I said, we put things on ourselves. And then I was able to face everyone else and not be ashamed
Yeah.
to talk about it. And even when I started the journey, of coaching because consultancy I was doing, I didn't need to be so external because my clients are all private. But coaching meant I needed, if I was going to coach other women, I needed to have the confidence to show up in every aspects of it. And so by talking about it bit by bit, then I learned to just not let it keep me bondage as well. And it's freed so many other women by me talking about it. So
Mm. I love that. And thank you for bringing that up because, Kadisha shared with me, and I hope that's okay, to share, is that you were not always open about these things, right? And your journey about speaking about this and normalizing this for other women and leading by example and leading by somebody who is facing the fears and facing the shame. I just so appreciate you being here today and just sharing this with us because you can tell that you have really stepped into that this is part of your journey, not part of who
yeah,
you are, right? But a part of your journey, a part of figuring out how to step into that choice, listening
yeah,
to your intuition, listening to what feels right to you. This is
yeah.
something that I teach women a lot how to tune into, which part of us is really intuition and which part of us is really that ego fear kind of coming in
Yeah.
and be like, yeah, you really shouldn't be doing that, right? Or you
Yeah.
can't really get divorced because what about the kids?
Yeah.
And there is a huge distinction between this. And what I really want to bring out is for anybody who is kind of doubting, people moving into a possible divorce, or might be separated, or thinking about, is this relationship for me or not? The way that I got confused in the past was my intuition felt very muddled. It felt very, I would get that initial knowing, and then
Mm.
immediately, ego will kind of come in and tear it apart and be like, yeah, but you can't really blah blah blah, and you're not really allowed to, and you're not a permission to, and I will get really confused. And the way I now break it up for people that I work with is we don't want to get out of a relationship to run away from something. We want to transition into something different by moving towards.
Hmm.
Because if we're running away from something, we are avoiding looking at the learnings and everything to help us expand and grow as who we are. And most likely we're going to end up repeating that again. You know, how many people have learned about how we repeat these patterns, right? We get into a new relationship and guess what? It feels great in the beginning and we're kind of back to that same cycle again of not being seen, not being heard, or unhealthy communication or unhealthy dynamics. We don't want to do that, right? We want to break those patterns. And for people who want to break patterns, one indicator is to really ask yourself, what is it that I'm moving towards? And as you were talking about kind of having that intuition about, but this feels right to me now, and I don't care about what other people say. What I hear you say is that it's very clear in my head how I've defined my future to be or what I would like instead of what I'm having right now. And when we have more of a clear vision of this is what I want in life, this is how I want to feel in life, this is the relationships that I want in my life. This is not about dreaming. This is about what I would really, really like, what my core being is longing for. If we move out of a relationship or transition from a job, you know, you can apply this to so many things. You are much more likely to get that and have success with that because you now defined why you don't want to be here anymore. So moving towards something is freeing because you now have a choice. You're more likely to be on the love train and creating positive momentum instead of being on the complaint train. It's like, I never want to be in a relationship like that again. I never want to be with a man like that or a woman like that, right? And blah, 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 blah. The more we focus on that, universe shall deliver, right?
Yeah, and that really taps into exactly that, what I teach. So part of my coaching is defining. The first thing you do is defining what you would love.
Yeah.
Let's not focus on what you love, because the more of you focus on something, where energy go, where your intention goes, energy flows.
Mm.
So the more you focus on what you don't want, it's the more of it you're going to get. So we do a full sessions of defining what would you love? What would you love in your love and relationship, which is one of where we cover. What would you love in your um, health and well-being? What would you love in your finances? All of that. And it's the four domains that we cover. And that really helps you. And then we do getting yourself to give a clear vision, a clear picture. And also when you get to a point where you're doubting, because going back to what you've said about when you get rid of a limiting paradigm, you have to replace it with what you would love. Because if you don't, it will only pull you back. Because we're human beings and we will revert to what we've always known.
Yeah.
So if you're going to remove something, you've got to replace it with something. So you remove a limiting paradigm, you present it with an empowering one.
Mhm.
And what you do is you keep that visible so that whenever you feel like you're being pulled back, you remind yourself of the vision, and that
Mm.
will keep you in the momentum of taking steps towards what you would really love. So that is really, that is really, I find that so powerful. What you've just said as well, and it just kind of enhances what I do with my ladies as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Can we talk about productivity? Because that came up with me when I was going to meet with you today in terms of when we go through a divorce, and I'm talking anything, I would say even deciding that I'm gonna leave a relationship, and then there's kind of the divorce phase that can look anything from few months of being okay, and then after, it can last up to a couple of years sometimes. People are in court and dealing with the MSA and dealing with co-parenting plans and the parenting plans and then confining or defining that. That takes up a lot of energy and a lot of mind power and a lot of speculations. How have you find that kind of particularly women, how does that affect their productivity or their success or their decision and investment? And, how can that kind of trip up people?
So for me, the concern for me was my daughter, because you want the best for your kids. You want them to have the best experiences. You didn't plan for them to have, two parents separately. And so that becomes a thing. And for me, particular, there's some stuff that I didn't experience, like the lengthy divorce. It was very quick for me for a number of reasons. And so I didn't have that side, I must admit, to be transparent. But when it came to my daughter, that's what always triggered me, because I had, not that I wanted control, but I couldn't make her completely whole, was what I felt like, because I couldn't promise her that it was going to all be okay. I know it will be okay, but there's going to be a journey towards that.
Mm,
I couldn't tell her that she would see her dad on this day, because I couldn't decide that. So moving from a home where, it's a given that you see, to one that you don't know when, you don't really know what's going to happen, or explaining, even though she was young, what's happened in her world, so she could understand it, but without tainting anything else, or painting any other picture that will be confusing for her. I
yeah.
think that's what drained my energy,
Mm,
because that was another phase of recognizing I didn't have to make it all okay. I just needed to be there for her. So I didn't need to solve it. I didn't need to make it all okay. I needed to be there for her when she needed
um,
me, answer the questions she asked when they came up. And that was it. That was
yeah.
enough. But as
Wow.
usual, that was enough.
Yeah.
And so that was hard. And it was hard for a very long time. I got better incrementally,
Yeah.
but it was hard for a very long time, because I wanted her to understand that there are times in relationship when things didn't work.
Yeah.
Doesn't make you a bad person. It
Mm,
doesn't necessarily make anybody a bad person. It's just different,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I'm the kind of person that will take accountability for me. I can't be responsible for anybody else, and I don't want to create their stories either. So it was important for me to let her understand that, yes, the idea that I grew up with, that relationships last forever, and you're responsible for making them last forever. I
Yeah.
didn't want her to have that. I wanted her to know that sometimes it doesn't quite work, and it's
Yes.
okay. And so that was the biggest thing for me that kind of drained me, where
Mm,
again, making me feel like I was failing.
yeah.
And over time, I realized that I didn't have to carry that responsibility. Um, and it was also because of the things she would ask and the thing that she would say. And I realized that, you know what, she just needs mommy to be there. It really doesn't matter. And you
Yeah.
sit and you talk, and as she grew, you explained as much as you could, and you left it there, because mostly she was just worried about who she's going to play with, who she's going to see. Obviously, when she's in a situation where the whole family is not there, she'll ask questions, but we deal
Mm,
with that when it comes up. And so it's allowing my self to understand I don't need to preempt and worry about things that hasn't happened yet. I don't need, that's energy being going into a situation that hasn't occurred. So I deal with it day by day, be what they need every day that it presents itself. And that's all I needed to do. So
mm.
that was the most draining for me, if I'm honest.
Yeah. And that really feeds into this sense of divorce being a gift. A lot of life transitions and accidents or unexpected life events, because a lot of times, you know, well, most times divorce is not planned. We didn't plan for this.
No.
It comes with beautiful gifts. It comes with permission to expand and learn if we choose.
Yeah, definitely if we
And
choose.
we are kind of forced, or I will encourage anybody going through that process of really question these beliefs that we have about relationships and how we're supposed to be as a mom and how we think that we're responsible for everything and fix everything. We need to control everything. There's a sense of letting go of control during this process. There's a
Mm,
sense of letting good control, or letting go of a sense of self and a certain role. And there's a lot of letting go of patterns and way we used to show up in life that we now question, and we can use curiosity to look at it and be like, well, what does this mean anyway? And do I really want to be doing this? What is my role really? Like, why am I doing this? And is there a better way of showing up? And I love how
mm,
you point out that you didn't need to solve anything. Because I think a lot of women feel very responsible, depending on kind of who initiated divorce. There's a
yeah.
different spectrum of that. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of embarrassment. There's a lot of confusion around, well, what do I do now? And how much do I tell my kids? And how do I show up in all of this stuff? And I love how you talk about that I didn't have to solve anything. Because recognizing that our children are on their own journey and they're here to learn and they're just here, they just want support. They just want us to put things in perspective, right?
Mm,
They want us to help normalize stuff. Of course you're upset. Of course you want your parents to be together. I dealt with
mm,
that for many, many years, and it still comes up for my girls that they think it's kind of still hard.
mm.
And of course it is. Like
Yeah.
anybody would feel that way, but we help change the perspective. So not having to solve anything is awesome. I love that perspective. And when it comes to productivity or what we put our energy into, the thing that comes to mind for me is the obsession that you were talking about a little bit, the obsessive thoughts of, I need to fix it, I need to do this, am I doing enough? And now you might have less time for all of that because you might be a full-time
Yeah.
mom now, single
Yeah.
mom, depending on if your spouse now have, the children part-time. So there's a lot of time spent on ruminating and trying to fix and trying to solve that we are now more distracted and maybe not as productive and maybe not making sound decisions. And I would really want to point out and normalize that for most people of saying it just means that you care. Like we have to give ourselves some slack and some credit and say it's okay that
Mm,
things may not be as superior and as great as they used to be. It even goes to work. It even goes with decisions that might have to slide because you got to put yourself first. You got to allow yourself to go through this process of the ups and downs and the emotions ups and downs and the life's ups and downs and the conflicts ups and downs.
mm,
You don't know what to expect during the process. There's a lot of stuff you can't control. What we don't want to happen is that those obsessive thoughts, well, we don't want obsessive thoughts. The speculations around how am I doing it, the reevaluation of ourselves. We don't want it to be so obsessive that it takes over our life into the how can I solve? Because you will not be able to solve.
Mm, definitely.
Being caring and concerning is one part that is natural because that's a great quality that we have of wanting the best for our kids and wanting the best for ourselves. But there is a letting go part in the middle that leaves us with, um, or that can get um, contaminated by these obsessive thoughts. And
Yeah.
that's where it's more harmful. That's where we start second guessing ourselves. That's when it really starts affecting our mood. We might get depressed. We might start drinking and all these other things that are destructive that can happen as a result of all of this because we feel so powerless. So I want you to know that you don't have to solve anything, that
Mm,
there is going to be a prioritize me time during this that's maybe feeling uncomfortable, but is so important for you to honor that.
it
Can you
is.
speak on that a little bit, Kadisha?
Oh yeah, I was thinking about various examples. So one of the first things somebody said to me, which was a friend when I was getting divorced, when I decided I was getting a divorce, she said, "Well, you know, I'm in a particular situation and I'm not getting divorced, so I don't see why you need to." And I said, "If that works for you, great, but I'm doing something that works for me." And I kind of left it at that because, and then another thing that happened was I had a friend, great friend, and I asked her just give me some space because I'm going to make a decision and I do not want in any point of my life that I would say it's because I was influenced by you or
Mm,
because you said this. Why I wanted to make sure it was my decision and whatever the consequences, because that's how you're taught that there are consequences to things that there is, and I wanted to know it's mine, and that's how I live. Like whatever decision, the information I have in this moment, I make a decision, and that decision is good enough for me because it's based on informed information. I'm not making it because of that person, this feeling, I'm making it for me. And
mm,
then another thing that I learned was, and my daughter said this to me once. She was getting ready. She used to do ice skating. And I
mm,
was getting so worried about everything being packed. You'll get a list of what needs to be in the bag. I mean, when she was younger, a little bit younger, because she was about 7, I used to do everything. But there comes a time when she's doing her little packing. And I'd go in the room and say, Chanel, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And the time's running out. And I've done that a couple of times. And she says, Mom, do you realize that you're the only one worrying and stressing about this? She says, I'm okay. And if I forget something, I will just deal with it. I never forgot
smart
it.
cookie.
It just made me realize, like,
Yeah.
stop. She said she's got it, and she's decided that if she forgot something, it's okay. Nothing's going to end. So that was really important for me. And I recognize when you talk about putting yourself first, that it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because when you're happy, when you're in a space, you've allowed yourself to look after yourself so that you can be there for them. That's when they're at their happiest.
Mm,
When you're happy, your child, your children, they'll be anywhere in the yard, in the house. They're happy because they know mommy's okay, right? They know you're not there. Yes, you will have your moments when you're upset. And even when they understand that that happens sometimes,
mm,
but when you're happy in yourself and you're being you, they are more content. And whatever you're being you looks like, they're happy. They're like, Mom's got this. But when you're being closed and you're getting ratty because you can't express whatever, or you're still making decision that doesn't suit you, doesn't align with you, doesn't fulfill you,
yeah.
they know that as well. They're little beings, but they pick it up. They are so good.
Yeah.
And so they draw from that energy. Oh, I'm not sure if
Mm,
I can go and see mom, or they're tiptoeing around you.
yeah.
So I learned that whenever I am good, that's when she's happiest. And it's
Mm,
still true today. Whenever
yes.
I am good, she's good. She's like,
Yes.
Yeah.
I
And so
love
it's
that.
important for you to understand that's the importance of choosing you. And
Mm,
when you say choosing you, the only people that get offended when you say choose you is the people that want you to choose them instead. Choose what they want. There's no one that will love you
yeah,
and care for you and want the best for you that will tell you that choosing you is not the best thing for you. No one, right? And just remember that. If they love you, they will want you to choose you because in
yeah,
choosing you, you're making it better. Anyone connected to you
yeah,
becomes better when you're
yeah.
good. And so that's the journey of I had to learn that, just to
Mm,
understand that she's good. She also likes to be responsible. She doesn't want me to do everything for her. I don't have to. That's another thing of controlling everything. Like, oh, I want you to be fine. I want to make sure you got every possible thing that you need, your
yes.
hairbrush, whatever, the gel, whatever was on that list. And for me, if you didn't have something, it was the end of the world. But that was just anxiety presenting itself. And so it was a journey, and I felt like I was growing and learning on her journey as well, because there was new stuff that I was discovering, and she was making me better.
Mm,
She was making me want to be better, want to
mm,
learn more, want to grow more, want to challenge the ideas that I
mm,
perhaps held.
yeah.
I remember once my mom was here. My mom was Jamaican and my mom said something, and she said, "Grandma, where did that come from? Have you ever thought that you've just repeated something that you've heard all your life?" See, kids challenge your thinking. And this is something about the marriages and relationship. There's stuff that we carry that we've just been told or heard is how it's always been done.
Mm,
We cause ourselves to be almost a bondage to it, like
yeah,
slaves to the expectations.
yeah.
Sorry about my dogs. And she's saying that now every time I remember when I repeat something, when I'm telling a story, am I telling myself the same old story? Am I repeating something just because it's been handed down or how things are
Ah,
done and the beliefs that we carry? And it just
oh,
made me kind of think about that and pushes me to grow and challenge. Because
yeah.
I'm from a generation that we just took what we were told mostly.
Mm,
Kids were seen, you just do what you're told, whereas she was
absolutely.
brought up with more an ability to express and ask
Mm,
questions. And so because of that, it allowed me even now to challenge anything I say. Where did you hear
mm,
that? Have you got proof? And that type of way. So that's the kind of growth journey that took me on,
yeah,
starting from wanting to control everything, wanting to make everything okay, to learning all these lovely things and learning that when I'm happiest, there she's happy. She's happy as well. So
absolutely. What a model. And we need to have another live on parenting because it just seems like, this is kind of like a whole thing in itself, really, of how do I stay in my own lane and still support my kids without jumping over and doing it for them?
yeah,
I love that. I'm just like super
yeah.
passionate about that stuff. So I would love to have another live on a kind of a parenting perspective because this is going to be
Mhm.
super, super valuable. And I just want to say that it's not everybody that can be so open to what our children tell us and can actually hear it as information instead of accusation. Because if we are feeling we're letting our kids down and we're feeling that we're now causing them pain because now we're dragging them through a divorce, it can be very hard to be open to any kind of feedback from our children. And the way that you are able to listen to your daughter says a lot about the openness that you allowed for yourself and be curious about what she's saying, staying in your own lane and questioning why are we doing this? Should it need to be this way? Just because we've done it for so long, do we need to continue, right? And this is all about personal growth and personal expansion. And it's so beautiful that you brought that out because it's not easy to do. It's very easy to kind of shut our children down and be like, well, I don't want to hear that. Or, this is how we do it. And you just, need to be respectful. And I would encourage anybody listening to really stay open to the reflections of our young souls that are very wise and have great perception because they're teaching us a lot of stuff, which we will talk about in another
In another session.
live.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I did.
And
Um, I
and I
did bring
just
that
want to
up.
say
Yeah, go
one
on.
one more thing, Kadisha. In talking about if I'm okay, she's okay. One thing that I emphasize with a lot of the clients that I work with is this concept of allowing you to be okay and going through a divorce. It's okay for you to be okay in that and going through something that's difficult. It's okay for you to be okay in a difficult relationship and allowing the difficult dynamic to still unfold. It's hard for our brains to understand that it's a both and, that both can exist at the same time. It's almost like I can feel happy and grateful today, but I can always also have moments of sadness spread out throughout the day. That doesn't make my day bad. I mean, it depends on how I conclude it, right? It doesn't really mean anything. It just means that it all can exist at the same time. Just like we talked about welcoming the shame, allowing things to be where they're at. You can still choose to be okay in it. A lot of times when we choose not to be okay in it is because we feel we're supposed to be feeling a different way, or our situation is supposed to look a different way because the situation reflects on who we are. And that's just wrong. So allowing ourselves to be making that choice of being okay with where I stand. I trust my intuition. I trust the decisions that I've made. I trust that I can be the best for my children. I trust that I can rise above the sadness that I have today and make tomorrow a better day. But I'm okay with being sad today. And that's okay too. This is something I didn't know. Like, nobody told me this. Like, nobody talked about it. Nobody talked about that it's okay to be strong during a divorce because that's somehow bad. Well, then you don't care, or you don't this, and you're supposed to be sad, or you're supposed to do this. And says who? I mean, says who? The only way that we're going to feel empowered and clear and strong and move boldly through something so severe as a life-changing divorce is to be okay with here and now and trust that the door will still open tomorrow. And it will. The more we kind of let go of that, the more life will show up with the next thing that is on our path. Now I'm
Most
getting like really like,
definitely.
yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. And it just aligns with my coach when she teaches about um, there's time we're naturally resistant to change, right? We are either pushed by the pain or pulled by a vision. And so when change happens, we don't want it. We don't want it to happen. But sometimes if we release that resistance, that's the only way we're able to see that the door will open.
Mm,
If we release the resistance, that's the only way we'll able to find the gift that somewhere along the line that gift is there. You may not see it now. Whether the gift was improve awareness, I'm more aware. Whether the gift is I now trust my intuition more because I kind of abandoned it for a bit. Whether the gift is I'm a better parent because through the journey I've learned so much. In the gift that I can be unhappy sometimes and it's okay, and
mm,
I can be happy at times when people probably don't expect me because they expect the journey to look different. Whatever the gift is, you will only experience it when you release that resistance
Mm,
that you're having to the change
mm,
and allow the change to unfold
mm,
and trust that the universe is holding you dear, is caring for you, will provide everything that you need to get through
mm.
this part of your journey that you're going through right now.
Ah,
And that is important and key, I think.
I'm just, I'm just allowing all of this to just settle into all my cells. I can just imagine people and just listening to this with their eyes closed and just letting it resonate with all their cells. I put myself in my, 10 years ago former self, and I wish that I could just marinate in this kind of hopeful conversations and people that understand you and people that get you. And because it's something that a lot of people can't talk to their friends about because they don't understand. Because part of them are judging them. Well, why would you do that? Or they might even say, you need to get out of there. You need to get away from it. But that's not helpful either. It's very difficult to find some good support at times during divorce if you don't have other divorced friends or a community where you can come in and you can learn from other people that you are not the only one. Like you're not alone in this, and all these huge emotions are so normal. And if it's okay with you, I just want to take what you just said to the next level. Like I'm gonna offer an exercise to people listening to this. I'm very visual, so I have these images coming into my head on a regular basis when I talk to people. Sometimes like analogies. This time it was a form of exercise. So if you're ready and you're listening to this and you want to let go of some of that resistance, what I would recommend right now or today, get some pen and paper. Or you can write on your phone, or you can dictate it on your phone. However it is, just get it on something, record it down somewhere. Imagine yourself a year from now, and I want you to talk about life, how you ideally see yourself in a year. I don't want you to think about what might be realistic, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. I just want you to just dream and flow in terms of how do you look back at the decision? How do you look back at yourself? How was the process with your children? How was the process with your ex? What does life look like now? What are the life lessons that you have learned about yourself? How empowered and strong do you feel? I just want you to write any detail, and I really want you to write it in a present tense format. I feel this. I am here. As you are literally experiencing it right now. And Kedisha like nodding her head. She's like, yeah, 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 I know the exercise. I'm using it myself with clients. And I'm just so inspired by that because people can use that right now. Like people can change their life right now just with that exercise and look at divorce in a very different way, a much more empowering way, because now you're actually stepping into how you want it, right? We're moving towards. So I'm so happy about this conversation that we're having today. It's so mind-blowing.
It is.
Any any final thoughts, any advice that you want to give to anyone listening to this in terms of either facing a divorce, going through a divorce, or those first few years after divorce that can also be really turbulent?
Yeah. Just remember that there is a chance that you will have blind spots, things that you don't remember, because divorce is traumatic. And there were times when I'm like, what did I do at this time? How did that year pass so fast, you know? Because you're in a situation now where you've got to rebuild, reclaim, you know, and at the same time life is happening. And so your brain will go to the things that matter, that matters the most in terms of
Mm,
survival,
mm,
and all of that. So there's stuff that you may not fully remember because, you know, there are probably decisions that will slide that normally you're on top of, or you wouldn't have made that decision had it been a different situation. But you've got to remember that it wasn't a different situation. The situation was what it was, and that's the decision you made at the time, and it's okay.
mm.
Um, and then you'll go probably through a forgiveness phase, like forgiving yourself for things that didn't quite go the way you would normally do. But, you know, what is normal here, you know,
Mm,
and just understanding that. And as you grow, you know, I still look back and stuff and I make notes. So this assessment that you're doing now, it's ongoing
mm.
because there's stuff that will come up for whatever reason, and because the brain does that, or you'll have a
Yes.
trigger not because you're unhappy, not because at that stage you haven't moved on. It just does. And so you'll sit back and you'll look back at it with different eyes. And
Mm,
these things will happen and it's okay. And I've experienced that. But know that you will continue to grow. You will continue to be the best version of yourself. You will continue to be everything that your children needs, especially when children are involved. The people that love and care for you will still be there no
mm,
matter what. You know, all the things that you worry about. And the person, if you allow yourself to evolve, if you allow yourself to become, because it's not the destination, it's the journey. And along that journey, every experience, every conversation, it's open up a new you. It's you're becoming this person, more experience. You're knowing what colors you like. You're knowing that I wouldn't choose that color because, and I know it sounds silly, but these things you cannot pay attention to. Go, well, I wouldn't have had that color. Really don't like it. You know, you get to choose the new car that you like. You get to choose the friends you like. Because perhaps in a relationship, you were going out with friends just because they were couples, you know. And so you're becoming this new person. You'll find out different things about yourself and you'll allow yourself to flourish and grow. And it doesn't mean that some of this didn't happen before. It just means that this is a new version of you and you should just sit in it and allow it to and
mm.
become. And it's okay. And I promise you, no one will travel that journey with you that wants to judge, that wants to pigeonhole you. They can't keep up because you're on your journey, visioning, doing your assessment, loving yourself, choosing you, and allowing the universe to lead and guide you into the next phase of who you're becoming. And I would tell you, turn up and show up as that woman unapologetically.
Love it. Yes. Where can people find you, Kedisha?
So if you want to find me, I am on LinkedIn, Kedisha Tate, under my business name, Igniting Dream, or personal name, I'm there. I am also on Instagram at Igniting Dreams Coaching, and Facebook as well. If you want to email me, it's info@ignitingdreams.co.uk. And I would love, love, love to hear from anyone who's got any questions as well. So
Oh,
thank
love it, love it, love it. Thank you for being here with me today. And as a lot of you guys know, in my group and um, people following me, I do have a new masterclass coming up next week, March 7th, taking divorce to become your life force. This is about the journey, the process that Kadisha talking about, how to reclaim that empowerment, the strength, and going through divorce at the same time. We're talking about the both and here. I
you.
want the experience. I don't want you to feel alone. I don't want you to make the mistakes that so many people make of repeating the cycle and getting stuck or getting yourself depressed. Like there's so many people out there spiraling out of control because we don't know what to do in a space of divorce. I want you to claim your power. I want you to reinvent yourself. And the only way of doing that is to have the right support. Okay.
Yeah.
And we're here to support you. So I want you to sign up for the masterclass. I want you to sign up for a coaching call. I want you to get in our groups. I want you to get in Kedisha's groups and circles. Surround yourself with people that are supportive, the people that get it, the people that understand. Please don't do it by yourself. So
Don't.
we're here for
They,
support. We're going to put all the links in for Kedisha, for the new masterclass, and let's go. So I appreciate you being here with me today. This was just so magical, so inspirational. I hope everybody has enjoyed it. And that's it for today. So everybody have a great Wednesday, and we will
thank
see you
you for
guys
having me.
soon.
Thanks for having me. It was great. Take care.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.